So get ready to erase your past in order to protect your future with Arnold Schwarzenegger in this mid-90s high-tech action thriller, Eraser. John Kruger is a U.S. Marshal who erases the lives and identities of people entering the Witness Security Protection Program, and does so while working alone. Kruger's newest objective is to protect Lee Cullen, an executive who's uncovered a treasonous plot by a weapons contractor employer Cyrex to put a new superweapon into the wrong hands. However, Kruger learns from his mentor Robert DeGuerin that protected witnesses are being murdered, and a poisonous seed of corruption is leaking through key areas of the agency and government. This all soon comes into focus as Kruger realizes there is no one to trust but himself, as he sets out to expose the treason and corruption of his colleagues and stop these new hypervelocity railguns from bringing about a whole new era of global terrorism. So released to theaters on June 21st, 1996, Eraser was a definite blockbuster success, garnering $247 million at the box office off of a $100 million budget, and not so much evident on screen with this film, but definitely behind the scenes, was a very turbulent and in-turmoil production, and it's very much a credit to Arnold Schwarzenegger himself that, despite not being credited as a producer on this film, certainly acted that way to keep a lot of the elements tied in and pretty much on track with this film to actually get it made. Without him, Eraser probably would have fallen apart at some point in time, become a very big mess of a film, because director Chuck Russell, who had previously done Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, the remake of The Blob, and the Jim Carrey film The Mask before this, didn't get along with producer Arnold Cobelson at all, period, and it was only from the ambassadorship, the sort of middleman that Arnold Schwarzenegger became between the two gentlemen, that allowed things to actually flow with the production to create schedules and map things out and keep things moving forward to allow him to make a film that really much feels like he is the captain of the ship on this film, despite Chuck Russell being the director. It definitely feels like, knowing all this stuff that I know behind the scenes of this film, that Arnold Schwarzenegger very much was the guy keeping the whole thing forward moving. However, despite that, there was still a lot of turmoil with the script of this film, which, despite having two credited screenwriters on this film in Tony Puryear and Waylon Green, there was also rewrites done by Frank Darabont and William Wisher Jr., and even John Milius supposedly actually worked on the script as well. So it's like, there's a lot of things on this film that seems like this should be a very big mess, come out as a very disjointed, convoluted, big sloppy mess of a film. But again, I think it's very much a credit to Arnold Schwarzenegger and his sort of work ethic and his sort of quality standards at the time to make sure that the whole film came out as smoothly as possible. And I definitely think that the film here of Eraser does overcome a lot of those obstacles, a lot of that problems that were going on behind the scenes of this film, that come out as a very good, nicely polished action vehicle for Arnold Schwarzenegger, which didn't quite make as much money as his previous film of True Lies, about $130 million less at the box office. But Eraser is a film that I had forgotten about for a lot of the qualities that this film really brings forth, because like one of those Arnold films that I thought, in memory, I didn't think it was that good of a film, but revisiting it very much recently, twice in fact, it actually comes out as a much better film than I remember it being at all. And it's like, there's a lot of good things in Eraser, while also having some things that are not quite so good, but still a good film overall with a lot of good things that makes it a very fun and entertaining film that very much holds on a very good level, that doesn't fall apart despite any of the sort of silly qualities of the film here and there with the plot and the high-tech aspects of it and various other things. I think this is a very solid sort of second-tier Arnold film with a lot of good qualities to its credit, but definitely one of the things that kind of shows its age in Eraser is definitely how they sort of overstretched the digital effects that were available at the time, because obviously right at this point, right when you had T2 and then you had Jurassic Park, people just saw digital effects, how great they were in these films, and just jumped on to kind of solve every problem that they had, every sort of effects sequence that they would have in a film, and try to use it for pretty much everything they had, despite not realizing, like, even with True Lies, use a mix of practical and digital effects to create the very best product possible instead of leaning on everything on digital when it really doesn't have the advancement yet to handle the weight and quality of the effects that are really necessary. And Eraser definitely shows that in the context of its film, that there's a lot of digital effects in the film that just don't hold up and very much dated for a very mid to late 90s film, whereas like when you see the railguns going off in this film and you kind of see a bit of a degradation in the film stock and how they've had to composite and render these effects, it kind of affects the picture quality of the film overall. And certainly some of the green screen work in the film definitely shows off, even especially in HD. Definitely shows, you can tell that it is a green screen shot, and it definitely shows its limitations here and there. And there's various other things, such as later on in the film, when you have that zoo sequence and you have these CG alligators. Got some very bad frame rates going on there, and just very very laughable effects when you see those things coming out, despite some moments where they're trying to hide it as best they can with a couple of quick cuts and a lot of heavy action going on. But there's a lot of things in this film with the visual effects, the digital stuff, even from Industrial Light and Magic and a couple other effects houses at the time, where just didn't have quite as much budget to achieve this level and quantity of effects, or they just didn't have enough time to render them to their fullest extent, or just the technology just not being able to handle what they needed to do in this film. But there was a problem in the film with the name of the weapons contracting company as Cyrex, because unbeknownst to the producers, there was a microprocessing company called Cyrix who didn't want their name closely associated with a corrupt company in a film that was probably going to be a big blockbuster. So they approached the studio and worked out something where they would have to go in and redub dialogue and digitally alter the name of the company to Cyrez in the film. And it's very interesting that all of a year and a half later, the company was defunct and you didn't have Cyrix anymore, but the changes still exist in the film as something that, again, put a strain on the producers, on the filmmakers, on the budget again, something they didn't account for. They'd have to go in and spend time and money and energy and resources to alter in the film. So it's just one of those things that, again, the film did run over budget, over schedule, and maybe some of those things affected stuff like the effect sequences in the film where they didn't have enough time between when they shot it and when they had to release the film to really get the best quality out of it overall. But it's definitely one of the things that's always stuck in my mind about Eraser, is that the effects just never really held up very well. And some of those things you kind of dwell on over time when you haven't seen the film in so long. But there's enough things in Eraser that really kind of push you past some of those dodgy effects in the film. And one of them is definitely Arnold Schwarzenegger in this film, because he seems very comfortable, despite, like I said, I had just did the review of Raw Deal, which was 10 years prior to Eraser, and in Raw Deal, he's kind of in a sort of role that he's not entirely used to or comfortable with. In Eraser, he's entirely comfortable in this role of John Kruger, the Eraser, and just like, it's great just seeing Arnold in his element here. That's what a reason. It just feels like finally Arnold's found his stride well by this point, and he knows exactly the type of character he needs to portray, what he's able to portray, his abilities, work towards his strengths, and it seems like everything in this film essentially is driven towards the quality of what Arnold can deliver as an action star, and a little bit as an actor too. That there's a lot of good things in his performance that show a little bit more low-key moments in the film when he is there with the character portrayed by Vanessa Williams. There's a lot of good, nice, sort of genuine chemistry there. They're not the most hot item or whatnot, but there's just nice sort of genuine camaraderie between the two of them. They have a nice way to gel between the two of them, and you just have these nice scenes where you show a little bit of compassion with this character, John Kruger. Just a little bit of things here and there that shows a little bit of the heart, a little bit of the humanity, a little bit of that charm that Arnold really does bring to a role. And I like that they kind of tapped into that a little bit, that you have to have this very scared witness
be kind of calm down and be trustworthy and just kind of come into the protection of someone that she can very much relate to, and someone that really does show that they care very much for her safety. So I thought Arnold really does a good job of, in those little moments there, just conveying that sense to Vanessa Williams' character of Lee Cullen. I think he does a good job of that. And of course, there's a lot of other good things that I think Arnold just shows that he's very much kind of on top form. Even if the film isn't the highest quality Arnold film, I think he's still on a very good form in this film, just kind of bringing forth a lot of good solid drama and all that charisma as well that he's very much known for. All those little traits or whatnot really come through very naturally in this film. He's very much comfortable, like I said, and very much into the zone of just delivering a very solid, entertaining performance here that really holds up so well that every time Arnold's on screen, you just feel that weight, that presence that he brings, a confidence that he has with the material and the role in the film overall. It just feels like he's very much at ease in this role and bringing forth everything he has to. You know, there's a few little scenes here and there, like when he's in the building trying to hack into something and whatnot. Seems a little bit out of sorts for the character that Arnold would normally portray, but it's like little fleeting moments here or there. It seems not quite as much what you expect from an Arnold Schwarzenegger character, but in general, I think he does a very solid, good performance here that feels very relaxed, but very much on point, very much on top of what everything's going on, especially like, as I said, behind the scenes, feels exactly the same way. He was very much on top of so many different things. From everything that I've heard about this film, he was so much on top of it, like a producer would have been, and just surprising that he wasn't credited as one, but whatever the case, he very much delivered as a performer in this film, and definitely as a behind-the-scenes sort of ambassador to keep this film going on track. And Vanessa Williams, who had been a Miss America and is also a singer-musician, does a fine performance here that it seemed like in the search to find someone for this role, it was a long and extensive search because she had heard about the role being open, and then she went on tour for a while and then found out it was still open, so she decided she definitely had to go ahead and try out for this role. And despite whoever else they saw, Arnold and all the other filmmakers really just found something special with her performance that really kind of clicked overall. And like I said, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger and Vanessa Williams do kind of gel very well in the film. I think what they do between these two performers in the film really kind of just hits off on a nice beat where you can feel like these two are very strong friends. They trust one another. They convey all the necessary emotion and genuine qualities with these characters to push the story forward and very much be connected and engage with the characters. And I think Vanessa Williams just brings a very good sort of courage to the character here that you see right from the beginning. She's kind of in a tough situation where she's found out that Cyrex has kind of had some glaring errors in their books, and she has to kind of go undercover a little bit, try to sneak in to their secured facilities and secured areas and everything. And she shows a lot of courage and a lot of different moments in this film that she isn't that sort of weeping type of character. And every single moment in this film, every single scene, she shows a definitely strong toughness to her character that I think comes through very genuinely. She's very believable and convincing in the role that despite being very tough, she is also appropriately afraid to convince you that she does need someone to protect her, that she really is that type of very humanized, dimensional person that's very realistic, but also just has that strike. She doesn't fall apart in stressful situations, even in the third act of the film, where she's being held hostage by Gagarin and that Russian mobster Petrovsky. She doesn't back down from the guy. She has total attitude. She holds her own in every moment of the film. I was very impressed by what Vanessa Williams brings forth in this film. I think she does a fine performance here that just holds it up on a very equal level with Arnold and just works off of him very well and very believably overall. But of course, we have the fabulous James Caan, who is like not given a material here that's going to be challenging him in any type of way. It's not like he's in The Godfather or it's in Michael Mann's Thief, but he's a good actor to call on to really kind of deliver a solid performance for a guy that eventually, he turns out to be the backstabbing, traitorous piece of shit that Arnold has to end up going up against. And James Caan just sort of relishes in a little bit. He doesn't go over the top with it, but you can just see that he's just kind of really kind of digging into this character a little bit and kind of enjoying just kind of later on in the film kind of roughing guys up here and there and just being a little bit more aggressive overall. When the sort of facades get dropped a little bit, he can be a bit more straightforward, a little bit more edge to the character, and just kind of get himself a little bit deeper into that. But it's just nice how early on in the film you get him kind of playing these scenes with Arnold. They just hit off those little beats where you have to get that history between the characters of DeGuerin and Kruger across, that DeGuerin was his mentor and the guy who taught him everything, and now DeGuerin's become crooked and he's going off and killing witnesses, and now he's in this whole plot of trying to get to Arnold's witness and everything. So it's like very interesting how he plays those scenes, how subtly he kind of gradually pulls the mask back out upon himself and really just kind of delves all the way into that piece of shit, that total scumbag with a nice James Caan swagger. It just seems like a very good fit, even though it's, like I said, it's not challenging him in any type of way. It's nice for him to kind of go in there, solidify the character, do a good job of it, and really convey a really good sort of sleazy type of character that once things kind of get going, you're really kind of glad to see this guy just get his comeuppance in this film. And it's like really good stuff from James Caan. I thought he did a really good job here. And Robert Pastorelli kind of comes in the film as sort of the sidekick comedic relief in a certain place, that he is a good quality comedic actor. He brings forth a lot of good charisma, a lot of good qualities to it. But there's certain things that he brings to the film that I think also kind of drag it down a tad bit. Not in terms of his quality of his performance or whatnot, but I think just the addition of his character in the point in time. About an hour into the film, there's a little bit of a sag. A little bit, the film kind of loses a little bit of momentum, kind of sags down, has a few little extraneous bits and pieces that are added into the fold, such as bringing in Robert Pastorelli's character, who was a witness who was saved twice by the character of John Kruger, and now he's being tapped to help out Kruger in this sort of mess that they have, trying to go up against these corrupt agents and everything, and just try to do all this stuff to kind of go a little bit undercover, get back in the Cyrex building, do a lot of different things. So it's like a couple of little beats here and there, even though they're good beats, still feels like it kind of drags down the pacing a little bit to kind of do a few little comedic beats in the film, and so on and so forth. But still, the quality of his performance is very good. He brings a lot of good things. Again, everyone's got good chemistry in this film. They hit off everything very well. No one's kind of sleepwalking. No one's phoning it in. Everyone's very much on top of what they're doing here. And despite anything I have against a little bit of the pacing of the film, the quality of what you bring forth from the characters and the performances overall are very, very good. And you got James Coburn as the head of the Witness Security Agency, and you got the great Nick Chinlin as one of DeGuerin's henchmen or whatnot. Who's always a guy like I really love seeing him in films. It's like just a fun set of characters, great set of actors in the film that just bring forth really good qualities, solidify their characters, and bring forth a really solid cast of characters overall. And it's rather interesting to note that there's a number of people who worked on Eraser who had also worked on a number of other Arnold Schwarzenegger films prior to this, including stunt coordinator Joel Kramer, who had worked on over a dozen Schwarzenegger films prior to this, and of course cinematographer Adam Greenberg, who had shot The Terminator and Terminator 2, and was suggested to the producers and filmmakers by Schwarzenegger himself as someone who could definitely work on a very hectic schedule and deliver very exceptional results. And Adam Greenberg especially does that with this film, because it definitely does have very much a lot of that Terminator 2 aesthetic, with a lot of the steely blues and some of those green tinges that you have popping up here and there in the film. It definitely has that sheen and polish you saw in T2, but just like, there's so many good things he does with the cinematography that just shows this is a guy with a very competent, steady hand, knows exactly how to compose and shoot everything possible in this film, and do it very spectacularly as well. This is one of the best, most polished Arnold films there is, next to James Cameron's work with him. This is a very good looking film with a lot of great solid compositions, using that CinemaScope anamorphic frame to create a lot of great action, make it look like a very high grade type of film that just delivers so much with his visuals, and a lot of good camera movement, a lot of good lighting that's very much inspired in this film. There's a lot of good moments in this film that just the cinematography, the lighting, show off some very good images that just pop out very well, and just how he covers the action in this film is so terribly good. how he just hits so many great, sharp, competent beats with how he shoots every single angle, composes every single frame with the action sequences of Eraser. Adam Greenberg definitely was the guy to call on and get this film shot and not look like a mess, not look like someone's who's doing it very utilitarian. He delivers a very good, solid, sleek type of visual in this film, especially when you do get into that third act and you get into very shadowy nighttime looks. This thing just excels so much, but I definitely think how well this film looks, how well it's put together, how well it's composed in so many aspects with the visuals and how the thing just comes together looking as good as it does. I think it's so very much on top of what Adam Greenberg contributed to this film overall, and just the editing of this film is also very, very good. Very solid stuff. Just treats what he shoots with very much great care and just looks so spectacularly well. I think the cinematography in Eraser is very high grade and very much a testament to Adam Greenberg dealing with that type of schedule, probably having a lot of things, like I said, going over budget and over schedule, probably a lot of stress, and still delivering something that looks this damn good. And despite the film having all those rewrites and all those screenwriters coming on board to just do whatever they had to mid-flight alter the script to whatever needs that were needed by the filmmakers, I still think the story in Eraser is a solid and straightforward one, very easy to follow type of stuff, with various elements of paranoia and corruption and sort of cynicism too, that the entire system of the government and everything is being broken, and the Secretary of Defense is in on it, and the WITSEC program is in on it, and all these different things, and just like this one lone man has to go in there and set things right and everything. So it's like very much total action movie type of logic and that type of plot and everything, but yeah, add in those rail guns for a bit more that sci-fi high-tech edge that kind of give it a little bit of a different flavor, whether or not it kind of works as well as it possibly can be. It kind of adds in there, even though the logic of what they say about the rail guns, that they can project aluminum rounds at almost the speed of light, definitely don't seem like they're moving quite that fast, but it's action movie logic, and you just kind of put that to the side and just enjoy what this film has to deliver to you on a nice story that does sag a little bit in that latter half of the second act of the film, but still delivers on the action that this film has to offer. And there's a lot of good stuff with this film. Right from the beginning of the film, you have a little bit of a thing that's slightly suspicious, and you know there's a stunt double when you have the character of John Kruger show up at the house, the character Robert Pastorelli's at, and these guys are trying to kill him for ratting out the mob or whatnot. And John Kruger shows up all in his black garb like a ninja and starts doing roundhouse kicks and stuff. Like, did you just walk in on a Van Damme flick or whatnot? This is not Arnold Schwarzenegger in that get up. Arnold Schwarzenegger does not do roundhouse kicks. He does not do a lot of these things that this stunt double's trying to do to kind of amp up the sequence or whatnot, make it a little bit more ninja-like. But regardless of that, the quality of the action in this film really is very good. That this is definitely in that mode of the 90s where they're very much focusing on the spectacle about the films, really kind of amping up the size of this stuff, and really going in trying to deliver some very solid, polished, and intense type of sequences that I think this film really does deliver on in a lot of cases. Like I said, the opening sequence where you got John Kruger kind of going in there as a ninja, it's kind of nice, kind of cool, a little bit different type of stuff. So it's like interesting type of stuff, and it keeps going on. It's like one of the things I heard from Arnold behind the scenes of this film in a sort of EPK type of thing, is that he was very much focused on making sure that the action stayed fresh in this film, that you didn't keep doing the same sort of thing over and over and over again. Don't do the same stunts, don't do the same sequence. Add something in different every single time there's a new action sequence, where it's a shootout or it's the sequence that's on the plane, which is one of the best sequences of the film, where you got everything kind of turns up on itself between DeGuerin and John Kruger there, and Kruger's got to escape the plane, and he's got to blow the hatch and jump out of the plane, but he's got to destroy the engine and whatnot, and he throws the parachute on. It's like this great sequence. It's very much Point Break like. That even though they're saying, like, in the behind the scenes and everything, they're saying they're doing stuff that probably no one's ever seen before. Yeah, this was done in Point Break, and it's done a little bit better because it didn't use a lot of green screen work on the whole thing, but it's a little bit more amped up in that type of way. You got the engine on fire and guys shooting at him, everything. So it's very much a different type of thing for an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. And there's a lot of good sequences overall, just everything that this thing delivers. And especially when you get like into the zoo sequence with those CGI alligators, it's still a good, sharp sequence that keeps things moving forward, keeps the momentum of the film going, keeps the tension going. It's a good thing about the first hour of this film. There's a sort of a constant rising tension. There's always a good momentum going forward with the pacing of the film. But like I said, when you get about the halfway point of the film, right after that zoo sequence, and everything kind of starts moving towards a slightly different storyline, and you lose kind of the momentum for about the next 25 minutes or so before you get back up into the climax of this film, which I thought really delivered in a lot of different cases. That the action, once the thing does ramp back up and gets that momentum going, gets that excitement building again, it just hits it off so incredibly well with the stunts that are involved, the effects that are involved, a lot of different things. When you just have the character of John Kruger and a couple of Pastorelli's Italian friends going off on the docks and trying to take down these guys at the docks and everything for making this massive arms deal and everything that could spark off a whole new era of global terrorism. It's just great stuff when you just see Arnold going through the sequence, and just when you get to the point where he picks up the twin rail guns, and it kind of looks like from the beginning of Terminator 2, the endoskeleton there with the two big laser guns. It's right out of that imagery, and just great seeing that type of stuff from Arnold. And he's kind of walking out of that whole warehouse and just looks so fucking badass with the fire going off. He's got the two guns right on his arms. All these things, and just the scale of the effects, the quality of the action that you really put forth in these set pieces really deliver this. Keep amping things up, going a little bit higher, a little bit more smarter, more clever, just using the ingenuity of the character of John Kruger, who's a very intelligent character that uses a lot of good, smart, tactical type of stuff, instead of just going in and blowing everything up as a blunt instrument. He uses a little bit more tactics, a little bit more strategy, kind of going up as this one man against a larger force, using a little bit more intellect going forward into how he's going to take on these guys who have much superior firepower. It's going to be a very interesting sequence and really delivers on so many different levels. And especially, I was very much impressed that they eventually do use some front projection work when you got Arnold and James Caan and Vanessa Williams up on that storage tank or whatnot. They use some very good front projection work that really delivers so well, and just like all the things they use with the action in that third act, the climax of the film really delivers so much. The scale of it is so very good. But like I said, the addition of Robert Pastorelli's character in the plot at this point kind of brings on a little bit more baggage, a little bit more of a comedic relief sidekick type of thing with the other Italian friends that he brings along, and they're kind of joking and having a little bit of a diversion from that, where you're kind of used to Arnold just being the sole focus of this whole thing, being the one guy against all the other bad guys and whatnot. There's one guy against the army, and he's got kind of jokey comedic sidekicks off on the side doing a little bit of other things. It's like, you could kind of write these guys out of the film. It's a little bit of a diversion. I don't think it was entirely necessary. It'd be nice if you just dropped the character in there for a little beat at the beginning of the film, in the midpoint of the film, and just kind of have Arnold go off at the end of the film and just have it all lean and straightforward, just with his character, make it him against all these other things, which is very much the meat of the film. Just keep it lean. But in terms of pacing versus the comedy entertainment value, I think the pacing of the film would have been aided with trying to trim some of that out and focus a little bit more leaner on the storyline at hand. So it kind of feels like at times the film gets a little bit long in the tooth, but it's not a long period of time. But the fact of the matter is, with the action this film delivers, which is very much the highlight of any Arnold Schwarzenegger film, this definitely delivers on the action quotient, the action quality that you want. Very high stakes, high spectacle in this film, polished filmmaking, with some effects that don't quite hold up. Some visual effects are a little bit dated for the time that they were done in, because they're trying to overstretch it beyond the limits of what it really could deliver at that point in the technology's development. But overall, nice fun story, solid cast put together, really good action in this film, and just a great payoff at the very end of the film overall. I think everything this film goes forward with is a nice film. I think Eraser is kind of overlooked. That you kind of look at everything after like T2, True Lies, and it kind of just falls off and kind of evaporates, and you don't really know what's exactly in Arnold filmography. I may forget about a couple of films here and there, and the little lulls here in between the big tentpole ones that really just stick out so well, usually the James Cameron films. But Eraser's a good one. I think it's a good one that's kind of like a nice second-tier Arnold film. If you get past the Predators and the T2s and stuff like that, Total Recall, check out Eraser. If you haven't seen Eraser in a very long time, your memory might fail you like it did me. I didn't think it was that good in my memory, but revisiting it, it's nice and solid. It's a nice, entertaining, enjoyable film. I think there's so much in this film that will thoroughly entertain you, get you on board with it, and get past a little bit of the cheap visual effects work. You'll have a fun time with Eraser. So check it out, guys. It looks really good on Blu-ray. Definitely check it out if you have to. And your comments below about Eraser would very much be appreciated. And just let me know how it kind of works out in the overall filmography for Arnold Schwarzenegger for you guys. And definitely the thumbs up on the video is always highly appreciated. And I should be back fairly soon with another great Arnold Schwarzenegger review. And probably keep a good variety of other action stars I really want to hit on. Because there's no Van Damme here. We got to get some Van Damme action going on this channel. And there's a lot of other good stuff I really want to get to eventually. And of course, so many big blockbusters coming up in the next couple of months that I'll be definitely hitting on, definitely doing reviews when they hit theaters. So, definitely a lot of stuff to be excited about. I'm definitely going to try and keep up the best pace I can to get as much content out to you guys as well as I can. So, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And you've just been erased.